You're listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. For more, visit lifeinquebec.com.
I'm Andrew Greenfield and I'm a first-time voter. I'm looking forward to having my say on October the 19th in the next Canadian general election. I'm an immigrant and I moved to Quebec City in January 2009. I became a Canadian citizen in September 2014, so a little over a year ago now as we record this. I'm married to a French Canadian and together we have 2 children. We live in the electoral riding of Louis-Hébert in the Quebec City region, and as a family we're fully integrated into society here. I speak French on a daily basis, my wife works in both English and French, and our children attend school in French. I'm genuinely undecided who I should support in this upcoming election, so I asked all the declared candidates if they'd be interested in meeting me in my home for a cup of tea and a chat around my dining room table. 3 of the candidates responded and agreed, so on Wednesday the 7th of October at 10 a.m. I had the opportunity to put questions to Denis Blanchette from the NDP, Joël Lightbound from the Liberal Party, and Caroline Pajot from the Bloc Québécois. And this is how it went. Alright, so we're in the riding of Louis-Hébert in Quebec City, and I'm a first-time voter, and I was really interested in listening to what candidates had to say with regards to various local and national issues. We did invite everybody who's declared as a candidate, and I'm delighted to say that we're here with Denis Blanchette from the NDP, Joël Lightbound from the Liberal Party, and Caroline Pajot from the Bloc Québécois. Conservatives, they sent the card, other than that didn't really respond, so we'll ignore that and we'll get on with the questions. The 5 questions, and the first one: according to a recent article in a well-known national magazine, the Canadian Navy now ranks lower in terms of capability than those of Bangladesh and Indonesia. Why do we still send aid, financial aid, to countries like that? Do we not have enough issues at home that we need to take care of first before sending money abroad? What do you think, Mr. Lightbound?
I think there's room to do both. I think Canada, and I was listening to a conference by former Senator General Roméo Dallaire, who said Canada has to play its role in terms of humanitarian aid. And I think there's plenty of room to do both, to take care of our people at home and to be responsible as an industrial country, as a rich country, to help out countries in needs around the world. And I think it's in the Canadian tradition to do that.
Okay.
It's a question of solidarity.
Yeah.
I actually totally agree with my opponent, my Liberal opponent. I mean, and just talking about the Syrian crisis, I mean, you can have some military action, but there has to be some humanitarian action also. I mean, it's essential.
What do you think, Mr. Blanchette?
Well, I agree with both of them. So we can do both. We are a rich country, and we are able to manage 2 issues at a time.
Yeah.
We have to remember that under Liberal and Conservative government, the investment in Navy has been lowered and lowered and lowered, and the capacity to deliver boat for the Navy has been lowered. So it's just a political will to bring back our Navy to some point. And we must continue to invest to help others.
Okay.
And on that point, may I just further add that as the Liberal Party has declared its interest not to go forward with the purchase of F-35 planes, which would cost billions and billions of dollars in taxpayers' money, to invest other sorts of planes that would be cheaper and invest more money in our Navy, just to recuperate what we've lost along the way in terms of our naval capacity. So.
Okay.
Well, we're at the same place too, but we want to make sure that Quebec gets its fair share of investments to form.
Okay, so second question. And this is a subject that's really close to me. As you can probably tell by my accent, I am an immigrant. I'm not from Canada, although I am a Canadian citizen. I became Canadian a year ago, and I'm looking forward to voting for the first time in the upcoming election. So, being an immigrant myself, do you think we do enough to help the many immigrants who come to our country to assimilate into our way of life, which I now proudly say is part of mine too. Madame Paget,
do we do enough? I don't think we do enough. No, I think that leaders have to show the way, and they have to make sure that there are spaces where newcomers are together with people who already live here. And I'm not sure there are enough places like that. I see, and we've probably all seen it, I mean, some fairs and in some neighborhoods, and there you see some people coming together a little bit, but I'm not sure there's enough of that. I think we have to make sure that we don't ghettoize people also. I know that with reference to the Syrians that the City of Quebec wants to have here, I know they have the plan to provide apartments for them, but not all at the same place, like a bit like all over town. And I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
So, but I think we have to do more in that way.
What do you think, Mr. Blanchette?
Well, immigration is a commitment on both parts, and when we agree to have someone coming in, we have to invest the needed resources in order to help them to live here. We can't have a big heart and welcoming everybody, but if it's not do the right way, we go ahead with problem. Some of them have been mentioned by Ms. Paget. So it is quite important to, when we have a commitment to welcome immigrants, that we have the resources that must follow. Otherwise, we have not, as a society, we do not do the right thing.
Okay.
Well, I think the first thing that we have to mention when it comes to immigration is that it's not a luxury for Canada to accept newcomers. It's a need. We must have immigration. At the time being, we have 3 workers for every 1 retiree. In a few years from now, will be 3 retirees for 1 worker who contributes to the economy. So in that regard, we have to accept newcomers. We have to integrate immigrants, and one way is to do that, and I know it's not at the federal level, but it's recognizing their full potential and the skills that they bring to this country. And as an MP, I know it's more provincial, it's with the different trades and professions, but we have to look at ways that whereby we don't lose a doctor who's not recognized, or a nurse, or an engineer. And I think that's a problem that I hear year after year from my immigrant friends, is that they're not recognized to their full potential, and they do contribute a lot to the Canadian society.
Well, I know that when I did my French course at Laval, and I was the only Anglo in it, the other people that were Brazilians, they were Colombians, and there was an architect who had to basically requalify.
Yeah.
You know, and what a skill fade, huge skill fade, and huge waste.
It's a waste in human resources, so we have to do more in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is recognizing the skills. That is a provincial issue, but on the federal level, we can really address the permanent residency that has to be given to people, and that's one of the things that the Bloc is putting forward, that we have to give the permanent residency once people have been here for 3 years and have already integrated, but because those are things that happened. People come here, they integrate, they find jobs, and then after so many years, then immigration will say, well, if you want to finalize or complete your file, you have to go back home and fill out the papers and then come back. I mean, nobody's going to do that. No. If they leave, they're not going to come back.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. So, third question, where do you stand on the wearing of religious symbols or clothing if you work in the public sector? Mr. Blanchette.
Okay. Suppose you talk about the niqab.
I didn't mention that.
but everybody understand that. In fact,
we could be talking about the cross. We could be talking about Jewish, the kippah. We could talk about turbans. We could talk about religious symbols in the public sector.
Well, in the public sector, I'm coming from the public sector before being an MP. So being there for more than 27 years, I've seen a lot of people doing a lot of things. But first of all, if you want to have a workplace that is is sound for people. We can't, in a way, just reject people or try to impose something to other people. So it's a balance between the people there. We have to focus on how it will be. Often we talk about that from the outside, okay? But I want to bring you in the inside of the workplace because they are public servants. They have to give services to citizens. So we have to put conditions in place to have the best workplace possible because at the end of the day, what public servant has to do is rendering services to citizens. So we have to create that workplace that everyone feels good.
Okay. What do you think, Mr. Lackman?
Yeah, well, as far as we're concerned, for identification and security purposes, it's always clear that it has to be, we have to be able to see the face of the person for identification purposes, security purposes. But as for, and I think you're referring to the Pauline Marois Charter of Values, we opposed it. We think it's, we have to be wary not to marginalize even more segments of the population who are already marginalized. And in terms of this election, I don't think that's the issue that most people care about. I think the economy is what we need to focus on. I don't hear a lot of people, besides you right now, talk to me about this.
Okay, Madame Pajot?
Yeah, the Charter of Values is really a provincial issue. I mean, and talking about that, we could be talking about that for a really long time. But I really want to address the niqab and burqa. It's really both the niqab and burqa are symbols of the inferiority of women in that extremist part of that religion, and it's not Muslims altogether who think that, but that part of the Muslim religion thinks that. So for me, for the Bloc Québécois, it's unacceptable to have that, because in Canada we have fought for the equality of men and women. Both men and women have fought for that, and it's not all gained. Those are things that can change quite fast. And there's some pictures going around Facebook, I don't know if you've seen it, one of Kabul in the 1970s, and women are wearing miniskirts. I mean, there's no way that women are wearing miniskirts now in Kabul. So it's not, those are things that can change over time in insidious ways that you don't really realize it's changing. So we really think that it's important that someone who comes to Canada accepts that value. And it comes before religious rights for us. And M. Duceppe went further than just the citizenship ceremony. He said that in the first bill that we put forth would be a bill that would ban wearing the niqab or burqa for the citizenship ceremony when you vote and when you render services when you're a public servant.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Moving on to work and jobs. What would you do to create more jobs for the unemployed or the underemployed? Madame Pajot, what do you think?
It's not the government's responsibility to create jobs. It's our responsibility to make sure the environment that businesses create jobs. So one of the things that we want is, and actually I'll talk about the SOFI, it's a Société de Financement des Infrastructures Environnementales. It's a society that would fund environmental infrastructures. We really think we have to move away from oil and the oil industry. And everybody says that anyway, even Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada. And we want to invest in infrastructure. That's really how you have to kickstart the economy, by investing in that. And we think that by investing in environmental infrastructures, it would prove that we have, it's a visionary way of investing and creating jobs.
Mr. Blanchette?
Well, what we propose in our program is, first of all, something that has been adopted by all the party, which means the SME tax reduction. That because the creation of jobs mostly at 80% comes from SME. We also who want to invest in green technology, because it's something that is very important in the near future for everybody. Also, we have to support manufacturing industries. Very often we forget about manufacturing industry, but we have to remember that under the Harper government we lost more than 400,000 jobs in the manufacturing industry. So we have to bring back some capacity, and could bring to people some good, well-paid jobs around.
Okay.
Yeah, well, in terms of jobs creation, I think we agree with Mme. Pajot with regards to the need to invest in infrastructure. And the Liberal Party is the only party who's given itself the means to be ambitious about Canada. So we've engaged ourselves to invest $60 billion more over the next 10 years in infrastructure, $20 billion in green infrastructures, $20 billion in social infrastructures, and $20 billion in public transit. We think that this is a way not only to create jobs, but to create the conditions for growth, and we think it's a good time to invest in Canada's future for various reasons. First of one is that interest rates are as low as they are historically low. Our debt to GDP ratio is as low as it's ever been, and the economy is stagnant. Growth has not been there for the last 10 years. We've had a prime minister whose record on the economy is one of the worst since the Second World War. So we think it's a good time to invest, and those investments will create jobs, but will also create the conditions for growth. We've also promised $750 million for professional training, and also we have an ambitious plan, and I'm not going to get into the details, for creating more jobs for youth. The unemployment rate of our younger people is much higher than the average population. We want to create 120,000 new jobs over the course of the next 3 years by investing in various programs that would that would encourage enterprise to employ more youth. So we've got a very ambitious plan, and unlike the NDP, we've given ourselves the means to do it by accepting that we're going to run 3 modest deficit, because it's a good time now to invest in the economy and in infrastructures. And even the IMF acknowledges that when the economy is stagnant, when the growth is not there, that it's a good time for government to step in and to do these investments, which we'll have to do anyways at some point. So
okay. Now the final national question then. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to the answer for this. Should the Liberals and NDP consider forming a coalition if the need or the opportunity presents itself?
That's a good question.
Is there enough common ground between the parties to make this happen?
Do you want me to go first? Sure. I think there are no talks of coalition as far as we are concerned, but we will work with whoever is elected from the NDP to make the government work based on the mandate that will be given by the Canadian population. However, I think a lot of people that I meet here in Louis-Hébert and across the region want change. They are tired of this government, that's the Harper government, that's so disconnected from the reality of Canadians. And I think a lot more and more Canadians and Quebecers realize that the real agent of change is the Liberal Party.
Mr. Blanchet, could the parties work together if the opportunity arises?
In 2011, what was our motto was working together. That was something very personal from Jack Layton, and a perspective that we will continue to follow. We offer from time to time just to check out if the Liberal Party changed his mind, if they want to work together. And every time Justin Trudeau rejects it. And it's okay, it's his own choice. He was not the first Liberal Party leader that rejected that. I will remind you in 2008, we have built a coalition with the Liberal under Stéphane Dion and supported by Bloc Québécois of Gilles Duceppe at that time. And when Mr. Ignatieff came in power, he decided to break that. So what we have to do right now is to have this election, have the people choose what they consider the best for them, and then in the parliament work with everybody like we already do every time we can.
Okay.
Because we are there as a parliament member, we are there for people first.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we are in the House of Commons, you have to work for the benefit of people. So after the election, it will be the same. The NDP will continue to work for the benefit of people, no matter what the formula will be.
Yeah. Okay. What do you? Can you see a coalition?
Well, I have no idea. I don't really. But what we want, and we strongly believe that the best way that Quebecers can be represented in Ottawa is by sending a maximum number of MPs from the bloc, and us having the balance of power, whether it is the balance of power of a coalition or of a minority government under Harper if he's re-elected.
Okay, well, moving on to the local questions, and Mr. Blanchet, I'm delighted with your last answer, and you'll realise why when I ask this next question. First question then, locally. Personally, I don't think it's possible to agree 100% with everything your chosen party pushes. If your constituents who you represent needed your help in resolving a local issue, but it went against the views of your political party, what would you do?
Well, it's when you are a MP, you first represent your constituent. That's the first thing to do.
Yeah.
You have to address the issue. You have to talk and mostly listen to people. It's not because I am from the Orange team that I have just to filter what sounds good to the Orange team in the riding. So first of all, you are the member of parliament for all of your citizens.
Okay.
Can we debate on this, or can we? I mean,
what do you think?
No. I just. A majority of Quebecers don't want the pipeline. So how come you're not taking a firm stand against the pipeline? What you're saying is, and we've debated together before, of course, but what the NPD is saying is that, they're going to have some environmental studies, and, they're not really for it or against it. They need to wait. But Quebecers are not saying we want one more study on it. Quebecers are saying we don't want a pipeline. So why? If you're saying that you're there to represent your people, the people from Quebec, why are you not taking a firm stand against it?
Well, it is very easy to say that when Gilles Duceppe himself will say no because we have no BAP. And if we have the BAP, yes, he did that.
Not about the pipeline.
Yeah, no. Yes, absolutely, he said that, and he agreed if you have an environmental study, then maybe could change his mind. What we said is that we can't agree on a project, and this one is the pipeline project that have not been on thoroughful study before. Okay. And when we say thoroughful study, it means not to accept or not accept what is on the table right now. Mm-hmm. It could be something that is modified a lot. We have to be confident in the process. If the people don't accept, if the road taken is not good, we have to change that. That's the way it is. It doesn't mean because we have an environmental study, it means yes, the way it is from day one.
Okay.
If I can add just my grain of salt, in terms of the Energies project, our position has always been that right now the environmental assessments are simply not credible. The process has been politicized. The National Energy Board has lost a lot of its credibility along the years of Mr. Harper. So we intend to bring scientists back at the table and to have a very thorough environmental process. But there is another part of that, is that governments may grant permits to population grant permissions, and right now there is not that permission, so we're not at a stage where we could accept that project.
But the question was, and I'm coming back to your question. Good. I'm bringing you back to it.
There is a big problem in Ottawa, and it started. It didn't start with Harper, but it got magnified a lot under the Harper government. Is that there's been a concentration of power in the Prime Minister's office, and it probably started with Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and it got always a little more, and it's reached a point where it's reached a point where the PMO decides and the MPs take the message from Ottawa and bring their back to their constituents, instead of doing what they were initially supposed to do, bring the message from their constituents to Ottawa.
Okay.
And Mr. Trudeau has Trudeau's son Justin Trudeau has promised to alleviate the party line so that MPs can vote according to their conscience, except for votes where the government could fall, so motions of confidence.
Okay, good. Second local question then. The new Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, is it good for us here in Quebec?
Well, no, it opens up the supply management system. I mean, and farmers from all over the province are saying it's not good for them. It's opening up, like, I think 3% of dairy products, and I don't have the exact percentages here, but no, it's not good for us. And I think and even Mr. Harper said, like, in the higher interests of all Canadians, we will sign that agreement, saying, well, we don't really care about farmers in Quebec, so we'll do it so it can benefit other industries.
Okay, Mr. Blanchet.
Well, in every trade we have good and bad things around. What we always said is the following. We always said that we have to protect entirely the supply management offer. It's for our farmers is quite important in the east of Canada. We have to acknowledge this first. Well, so said that we have to look at the cultural exception. So we have to look at this, see what is in that, but we have a few things like the integrality of the supply management that it's very I don't know the expression in English, but a condition that they have been there and protect our farmers there. Okay. So until that we have seen that, we can't agree just without reading. Okay. Something that Justin Trudeau do from time to time, to agree without reading anything.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mulcair has said that he would throw this deal without even knowing the details of it, so I think that's very irresponsible. As far as we're concerned, at the Liberal Party, we are, as a general principle, in favor of free trade. I think Canada has to be part of this globalized economy if it wants to if it wants to compete and if it wants to have access to those markets. However, the problem that we have is that the process has been has lacked transparency every step of the way. We don't. Mr. Harper has negotiated this deal in secret, and I think for such an important deal, which will have ramifications for years and decades to come, we have to know the full details. We have to study it, and Canadians have to know what they're signing up to. And so we want to study this bill very thoroughly and carefully, and with the intention to protect la gestion d'offre. That's for sure.
Okay. Next question. There's around 3,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of raw sewage, possibly about to be dumped in the St. Lawrence River in Montreal. Now we're downriver, so it's going to come our way. Are we in danger, and should it actually be happening at all? Madame Pagé.
Well, I don't think we're in danger. I think that the scientists that have been talking in the media over the last 24 hours or so have said so. Like, I'm not a specialist, really not. What we think that if we're in such a situation, and it's really too bad our Conservative opponent isn't here this morning to answer for his party, but I mean, they've had, the Harper government has had that project like for a year now, and they're deciding now, right in the middle of the campaign, to score some environmental points by saying, no, you need an environmental assessment for that to go ahead. So, no, it's not an ideal situation, but that has to be done now. So what we have to make sure is that it doesn't happen again in the future, and we think that our idea to create a corporation that would invest in environmental infrastructures would be could finance such a project like infrastructures.
Mr. Latner?
Yeah, I think as Madame Pajot pointed out, I'm no expert either, and I'd rather leave that to the experts. And what I think it underscores, this whole problem that we're having now, is that Environment Canada has lost some of its ground, and that there needs to be more investments in our researchers, in our environmental agencies. And also I think it underscores that there's a need for green infrastructures, and we are the only party that's pledging $20 billion more in green infrastructures over the course of the next 10 years. So,
okay.
Well, it's first of all an environmental issue. The Conservative government had 13 months to address the issue. It does absolutely nothing, just a decision on the corner of the table. Why? Is it because the Conservative neglect to address the issue? Is it because, you know, in the last 4 years, 20,000 people lost their job as a public servant in the government, on the public federal administration? Do they have enough people to have the study that are required? So that's a question we have to address. Is it because of all those cuts now that government is unable to take a stance based on scientific study and to have a right decision back by a study? We don't know, but we have to know, first of all, why this mess, because it is a mess right now. No matter what, on the side you are, everyone agrees that this is a mess, right? And we have to address that mess.
So you could form a coalition, you agree. All right.
There are some clear differences.
Of course. Like, I mean, citizens, I mean, of course we all have like some common points at some points, you know.
We probably have more shared values, but Madame Pajot wants the separation of Quebec. I don't, so that's a big difference.
The Provigo supermarket across the street in the Mile Cap Rouge across there, it's closing next month. The shopping centre across there is going to turn into a ghost town as a result of that. And we've seen retail stalls in the last few months, in the last 12 months, closing in Place Laurier, Place Sainte-Foy. What can we do to regenerate the shopping centres locally?
Well, I think if we look at what the federal government can do and what we're offering as a party is to help out families in the middle class to have more money in their pockets that they can invest in local businesses. And for instance, we have a new allocation canadienne aux enfants. The words come in French in my head.
That's a supermarket that sells necessities that we need. It's food. So we need to stay alive.
I know. So, but it is a problem. I see it. Yesterday we were in La Rue Maguire. It's another issue that they're facing. And what I can say is that for small and medium enterprises, we're offering to lower taxes from 11 to 9%. But we're also offering to put more pockets in the families with low or middle income and to Canadians of the middle class. And I think that's going to help out because people right now have a hard time, you know, facing the rising cost of living that's not matched by their revenues.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this is an issue that we are all the time. And it is about what we're doing as people living together in a place. Okay, I think the local business has a role to play in the urban fabric. But what we can see that shopping center, the power center, and even the new habit of shopping by internet has modified a lot, I would say, a lot, the way people buy things. And what we have to do is to, not as an MP, because it's not a federal jurisdiction, but as citizens of all around, to imagine the formulas that can give people the idea of coming back to the center of their hometown, to buy commodities there. It means maybe like other place being under Business Development Corporation, the Small Business Development Corporation. It means maybe to listen to people around what they want to buy locally. People are ready to buy locally, but we have to match the offer and the demand.
Yeah.
If you have not that you can't have success, and then the people will buy a price and go elsewhere. But there is a value to have a relationship with a small business, and I value that.
Okay.
Well, as I was the director of a small chamber of commerce a few years ago, and like Joël was saying, last evening we were all at an evening that was organized by the SDC Magloire, and all the commercial streets in Quebec and everywhere, they're all facing the same issues of people trying maybe to get better deals and not being really aware of the consequences of when you get into your car and you go shop into a big mall, or instead of shopping close to where you live. Those are like, and I think of Cartier Street. I lived in that neighborhood for a few years, and many years ago they undertook like actions to kind of develop a feeling of belonging to that neighborhood, and they started to organize like a cinema outside, and one day in the winter where they would close the street and you could slide down. They had like snow on the street, and it was really a family-oriented thing. They had a flea market every month of May. So it's really those are really issues that have to be addressed locally. But I think the NP has an essential role to play as a partner of all those initiatives and networking. And you have to be there, and as much as you are the voice of your people in Ottawa, you have to bring back all the opportunities that are there for small businesses if they want to have some help expand or change, enhance the services they offer or the products they offer. So you really have to be there proactively and be a partner of the social and economic development. It's social development. I mean, it's...
Okay. So final question, and thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate this. Now, the final question, just quickly, and we'll go around the table. I agree with some, but not all, of things that all of you have said. And this is the difficulty I face. I've got one vote. I can only support one candidate. Just give us 30 seconds to a minute. Why should I vote for you, Joel?
I'm a very hardworking, positive person. I think I've got a good heart and a good head. And I think there's the Liberal Party. We're offering the true alternative to Mr. Harper's government. And that, though we share values with the NDP, it's hard for the NDP to put forward a progressive agenda with a conservative budget, and that's what they're offering.
Okay.
The Liberal Party is more ambitious for Canada, and I think we represent change much more than the other parties. And I think it's important to send MPs from Quebec in a Liberal government in Ottawa.
Okay.
I came to politics to do it differently. I'm a child of the Liberal Party sponsorship scandal. That's the way it started for me to be involved in politics. And I'm in politics for people, because with the NDP, we believe that no one must be left behind. So I'm here to offer hardworking, listening to people, I'm here for searching solutions. My office as an MP in the last 4 years has been a place where everyone has been welcome. We deliver services to many citizens. We proactively offers solutions to group in the communities. We were there outside for all the community. I participate to more than 700 events with me or my staffer in the riding in the last 4 years, even if my workplace is Ottawa. And we try to match people with solutions.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay, thank you. Madame Pajot?
Okay, well, I think I'll start by saying I'm a very also determined and energetic person with a significant life and business professional experience. But most of all, what I want to say is that the Bloc Québécois is the only party that represents exclusively the interests of Quebecers. All the other parties have to represent also the interests of other regions, and therefore necessarily have to make compromises on what they put forth, on their orientations. And the Bloc Québécois has been the best opposition ever. When it was the official opposition, everybody agreed that it was a very, very efficient opposition, and we've gained some things for Quebecers, a lot of things. And I think if people really want to be well represented, it's really the only solution. It's the only option possible.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks to all three of you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
And good luck come October 19th.
Thanks.
And I wish you all the best.
And so you said you'd tell us for who you voted.
I said I'm a man of my word.
Okay.
If you ask me on October the 20th who I voted for, I will tell you honestly.
Good.
We
will be visiting you.
I've given you my word. I will tell you, I promise you.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you for listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. For more news, editorials, and opinion, visit lifeinquebec.com.